There she was, standing on my doorstep at 2:13 a.m. Soaking wet. Crying. Holding a baby in her arms. My ex-wife. Olivia. The same Olivia I caught in our bed with another man 2 years ago. The same Olivia who looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't enough. And now she stood there like a ghost from a nightmare I thought I'd buried. "Jake," she whispered, shivering. I didn't know where else to go. I couldn't speak. My heart was a drumline, pounding in my chest. My hands clenched the doorframe so tight I thought the wood might snap. The baby started crying. And that's when I saw it. His eyes. He had my eyes. That was the moment everything flipped. The moment I knew this wasn't over. Hell, it was just the beginning. You want to know how we got here? Let's rewind. It started with a smell. A damn perfume I hadn't smelled since our honeymoon in the Bahamas. Olivia had started wearing it to bed. Not for me, no. For someone else. At first, I thought I was being paranoid. I'd come home from long shifts managing private security downtown, and she'd already be asleep, phone hidden under her pillow, pretending to be tired. But the signs kept stacking up. The late-night showers. The random mood swings. The way she laughed at her phone like it was whispering dirty jokes. Then came that night. The night I got off work early. The night I walked into our apartment with fresh pastries in a paper bag, hoping to surprise her. And found her in bed. With him. Mason Caldwell. Billionaire. Real estate mogul. The kind of man who buys people like toys and throws them away when he's bored. I didn't even get a word out. She looked at me with the coldest smile I'd ever seen. "Oh. You're home early." The look on Olivia's face when I walked into that bedroom. I'll never forget it. Not shock. Not guilt. Just annoyance. Like I'd interrupted something she felt entitled to. There she was, sitting up in bed with silk sheets wrapped around her, next to Mason Caldwell. Yes, that Mason. The billionaire who threw money around like he owned the air we breathed. He didn't flinch when he saw me. He didn't even pull the sheets up. Just leaned back, smirking like he was watching some cheap drama unfold. "You're home early," Olivia said again, this time with a sigh. I couldn't speak at first. My body was frozen, like my brain couldn't process what my eyes were seeing. I kept waiting for the punchline, the explanation, anything to make this not real. But this was real. "I brought you your favorite," I said. I don't even know why those words came out. My voice sounded distant, robotic. I was still holding the pastry box from the bakery. Chocolate croissants. From Gina's. She had the nerve to laugh. A little snort like she found the moment funny. "You're kidding, right?" she said, standing up without shame, her robe hanging open for just a second too long. "You think a damn croissant is going to fix our marriage?" "I didn't know it was broken," I said. She rolled her eyes. That's the problem. Mason still hadn't said a word. He was just watching, smirking like he'd done this before. Like I was nothing but another loser husband too weak to keep his wife interested. I wanted to punch that smirk off his face, but I didn't move. Because deep down, some part of me still couldn't believe this was happening. "Why him?" I finally asked. "Out of all the people in this city, why him?" Olivia shrugged like it didn't even matter. "Because he listens. Because he's interesting. Because when I talk, he actually hears me, not just grunts and nods while checking security alerts on his phone. And let's be honest, Jake, he's not exactly struggling." I stared at her, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. "So you traded our life for money and attention?" "No," she said. "I traded it for value. Something I haven't felt in years." That word hit harder than a punch. Value. She didn't just cheat, she evaluated me and found me worthless. I didn't yell. I didn't flip a table or smash a lamp like they do in movies. I just nodded, placed the pastry box on the floor beside the bed like some pathetic offering, and walked out. She didn't follow me. She didn't even call my name. The door closed behind me, and that was it. The end of a 5-year marriage in 30 seconds of silence. The next few weeks were hell. I stayed with my buddy Marcus for a while, crashing on his couch while trying to figure out what the hell just happened to my life. He offered me beer and dumb advice, "You're better off, bro," but none of it landed. None of it helped. I couldn't stop replaying it in my head. The smirk on Mason's face. The coldness in Olivia's voice. That damn perfume. I went back once, a week later. Just to grab my stuff. She wasn't home, and I didn't leave a note. I packed a few duffel bags, took my tools, my dad's watch, and left everything else. Furniture, TV, wedding photos, all of it. I didn't want any of it. I filed for divorce the next day. She didn't contest it. Not a single word. Just signed the papers and had her lawyer email them back like she was unsubscribing from a newsletter. And that should have been the end. But you don't just walk away from betrayal like that. Not clean. It sticks. It warps your brain, makes you question everything. I found myself looking at strangers and wondering who they were cheating on. I didn't trust people. I didn't even trust myself. I threw myself into work, private security, surveillance, sometimes shady, sometimes not. Long nights. Rough jobs. The kind that left your knuckles raw and your soul numb. But it helped. Until 2 nights ago. When she showed up. 2:13 a.m. The knock was slow. 3 times. Like something out of a thriller. I checked the peephole and felt my stomach drop. Olivia. She looked like hell. Hair soaked. Face pale. Arms wrapped tightly around a bundled-up baby. She didn't say a word until I opened the door. "Jake," she whispered, voice trembling. I didn't know where else to go. I didn't say anything. I was too busy staring at the kid. Maybe 6 months old. Big, blue eyes. My eyes. And in that split second, everything changed. Again. She was shivering. Her hair clung to her face, soaked from the rain. The baby in her arms squirmed, letting out a soft, whimpering cry that cut through the silence between us. I hadn't moved. My hand still gripped the edge of the door, knuckles white. She looked smaller than I remembered. More fragile. Like life had finally taken a swing at her the way she once took one at me. "I didn't know where else to go," she said again. "You shouldn't have come here," I muttered, voice like gravel in my throat. "This door closed a long time ago." She stepped forward, just enough for the porch light to hit the baby's face. And then it hit me like a gut punch. His eyes. My eyes. Not similar. Identical. Down to the flecks of gray in the blue, the same pattern my mom used to say looked like snowflakes when I was a kid. "You're joking," I whispered, staring at her. "Tell me this is some sick setup. Some manipulation you cooked up with Mason." "His name is Caleb," she said, eyes filling with tears. "And yes, he's yours, Jake." My mind exploded. No. No, that's not possible. I got the divorce papers 9 months after that night. "You said." "I lied," she cut in, her voice breaking. "I didn't know I was pregnant until after. I was going to tell you, I swear, but you were gone. And Mason didn't want." She stopped. "What?" I stepped closer, rage bubbling under my skin. "Mason didn't want what?" "He didn't want your child," she said, barely able to look me in the eyes. "He told me to get rid of it. Said if I wanted to be part of his life, there was no room for baggage." I stared at her like she was made of poison. "And you stayed with him?" She looked away. Of course she did. The next hour was a blur. I let her in. Mostly because I wasn't going to let my kid stand out in the rain all night. Caleb was cold, but not sick. Olivia handed him over like she was handing me a fragile memory. He was warm, soft, and heavy in my arms. When his little hand gripped my finger, something inside me cracked open. A part of me I thought Olivia had destroyed forever. She sat on the couch like she belonged there. Like the last 2 years hadn't happened. Like she didn't blow up our life for a man with a private jet and a god complex. I left Mason, she said quietly. A few weeks ago. I don't care, I replied without looking at her. She flinched. I was staying at a friend's, she continued. But her boyfriend got weird about the baby being around. Then money got tight. I reached out to Mason for help, he sent someone to tell me never to contact him again. I almost smiled at that. Almost. He's done with you. You were fun for a while. That's how people like him work. Her eyes welled with tears, but I didn't feel sorry for her. Not even close. I didn't come here for sympathy, Jake. No, I said. You came here because you ran out of options. Because the man you threw me away for finally threw you away. And now you're crawling back, with a baby you kept hidden from me, hoping I'll be the same fool you used to walk all over. She didn't deny it. That made it worse. I don't want anything from you, she said after a long pause. Just a place to stay for a few days. For Caleb. I won't even sleep in the bed. The couch is fine. He deserves to be safe. She said all the right words. But I knew Olivia. Knew the way she operated. Her tears weren't always fake, but they were always strategic. She didn't come back to make peace. She came back to survive. And if she could manipulate my guilt to do it? Even better. I didn't give her an answer that night. I just watched her rock Caleb to sleep while I stood in the kitchen gripping the counter, breathing slow, trying not to spiral. I couldn't shake the image of Mason Caldwell smirking at me, owning what was mine. I couldn't erase the coldness in Olivia's voice that night she chose him. And now. I had a son. A son I didn't know existed. A son she kept from me. There was no way to pretend things could just go back. But there was also no way I was letting that little boy out of my life. So the next morning, I gave her rules. You stay 1 week, I said. That's it. After that, you figure it out. But Caleb, he's staying in my life. And if you even think about running with him again, I'll bury you in court so deep, you'll never see daylight. She nodded, eyes wide. I meant every word. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't know, is that her showing up wasn't just a twist of fate. It was a setup. And I was already 3 steps behind. It was supposed to be a simple arrangement. 1 week. That's what I gave her. 7 days under my roof, and then she was out. No more past dragging me down, no more ghosts crawling out of my history at 2 a.m. But the second Olivia stepped into my apartment, time started bending again. The past didn't just visit, it unpacked its bags. Caleb slept in the spare room. I moved in there with him, not because I was avoiding her, okay, maybe I was, but because I didn't trust her alone with him. That might sound harsh, but if you'd seen what I'd seen, you wouldn't either. Olivia? She was too polite. Too helpful. Too quiet. And that silence? It screamed louder than words. She made breakfast every morning. Cleaned the place top to bottom like she was earning her stay. But she never said a damn word about what really mattered. Never offered a full truth, just scraps of the story when I pushed hard enough. And I was done playing detective. So I started watching. She still hid her phone. Always face down. Still jumped at certain noises, like a car door slamming or a knock at the door. She checked the locks twice every night. And once, I caught her staring out the window at 3 a.m., whispering into her phone with tears in her eyes. She didn't see me watching. But I saw enough to know, something was wrong. It wasn't just guilt. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was fear. 3 days into her stay, I got a message from an old contact in security, Deacon, a former military guy who owed me a favor. I asked him to run a trace on Olivia's number. He called me back 5 minutes later. Jake, he said, voice low. You got something serious on your hands. What are you talking about? That number? It's flagged. Feds pinged it in an investigation last month. Not directly tied to her name, but it's been in contact with a burner linked to Caldwell's private assistant. I froze. Why would Olivia be tied to a burner involved with Mason's assistant? I don't know, Deacon said. But you better watch your six. If she's into something deep, you could get pulled under. The line went dead. I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I looked down the hall, where Olivia was humming softly to Caleb while feeding him mashed banana like we were one big happy family. That's when I knew something was off. This wasn't just about heartbreak. There was another game being played here. And I was the only one who didn't know the rules. That night, I waited until she fell asleep on the couch, TV still flickering, her arm draped over a throw pillow like she was exhausted from all the pretending. I picked up her phone. It was locked. Not a problem. I used a thermal camera app I'd once used to test hotel security, read the last heat prints on the screen. Traced out her passcode in under 5 minutes. And what I found? It was a storm waiting to break. Messages. Lots of them. Deleted ones, too, but not all gone. She'd missed clearing the trash folder. One thread stood out. No contact name. Just a number. Unknown, he doesn't suspect a thing. Olivia, not yet. He thinks I came for help. Just like we planned. Unknown, good. Keep him soft. You have 5 days. My blood went cold. Keep me soft. 5 days for what? The next morning, I made coffee and handed her a mug like nothing had changed. She smiled, said thank you, went back to feeding Caleb. And I watched her like a hunter in the woods. You said Mason cut you off, I said casually. But your phone's been talking to his assistant's burner. The spoon stopped halfway to Caleb's mouth. She blinked, then placed the bowl down slowly. You went through my phone? She asked, voice calm, but her hands trembled. Answer the question, Olivia. Her mask cracked just slightly. Just enough for me to see panic behind her eyes. I had to, she said finally. He's dangerous, Jake. You don't understand, Mason doesn't just let people go. He wants Caleb. He found out, and he wants him. I narrowed my eyes. You just told me Mason wanted nothing to do with Caleb. She looked down. I lied. Why? Because if I told you the truth from the start, she said, you wouldn't have let us in. And I needed you to protect him. I laughed. Cold. Sharp. You don't need me. You need a shield. A body to put between you and him. You're not here to rebuild, you're here to hide. And then, like clockwork. A knock at the door. 3 slow taps. My stomach turned to ice. I walked over and looked through the peephole. And there, standing outside in a black coat, sunglasses at night, holding a briefcase and a folder under one arm, was a man I didn't recognize. But something in me knew. This was who she was running from. 3 slow knocks. Not urgent. Not hesitant. Just, calm. The kind of calm that hides violence behind a polite smile. I didn't open the door right away. I stood there, eye against the peephole, trying to read the man on the other side. Late 40s, maybe. Slick black coat, jet black leather gloves. Bald. Clean-shaven. Not a single detail out of place. He wasn't soaked from the rain like Olivia had been. No, this guy had walked here under protection, like he had time. Like he was the one in control. He glanced up. And just like that, he looked directly into the peephole. I stepped back. He knew I was there. And that meant he wanted me to open the door. Behind me, Olivia crept into the hallway holding Caleb. Her face was drained of all color. She took one look at the man on the other side of the door and whispered, "Don't open that door." "Too late," I said. And I did. The man smiled as soon as the door cracked. "Jake Wyatt," he said, like we were old friends. "Glad to finally meet you." I didn't answer. Didn't invite him in. "You're not on any list I recognize," I said. "And I don't do business with people who knock in the middle of the night." He lifted the briefcase with one hand. "This isn't business. This is a courtesy." "Then speak fast." He nodded, like he appreciated the directness. My name is Everett Cole. I represent Mason Caldwell. I've been asked to deliver a message, clean, professional, no threats, no conflict. Good, I said. Because if this turns into something else, you won't be walking away. He chuckled like I'd told a decent joke. Then he opened the briefcase. Inside was a manila folder and a thin red envelope. He took out the folder, extended it to me. I didn't take it. So he dropped it on the ground by the door. That's a paternity test. Dated, verified, and signed. Mason had it run 6 weeks ago. He knows about Caleb. And he knows the boy isn't his. I clenched my jaw. You came here to tell me something I already know? No, Everett said, taking out the red envelope. I came to give you this. He held it up. This is a custody lawsuit. Filed an hour ago. Mason is petitioning for full custody of the child. Not because he believes it's his, but because your ex-wife breached a non-disclosure agreement she signed 2 years ago. An agreement that forbade her from having a child during their arrangement. Mason sees that child as a breach of contract. And he plays to win. I stared at him, stunned. He's suing, for a child that's not his? He's suing to punish her. And you're now part of the mess she made. Olivia stepped forward, voice trembling. You told me the contract was burned. You said I was free. Everett tilted his head. I lied. I couldn't help it. I laughed, cold and bitter. So now what? He takes my kid just to get back at her? He's not planning to keep the boy, Everett said. He just wants to make her suffer. But if you resist, he'll make you suffer, too. He dropped the envelope at my feet. You have 5 days to respond. The lawsuit will move quickly. Mr. Caldwell has resources. You don't. My advice? Settle. Give the boy to her. Walk away. You might still have a life left when it's over. He turned to leave, but paused at the edge of the steps. Oh, and Jake, he said without looking back. You might want to ask Olivia what really happened that night you walked in. Because I assure you, it wasn't what you thought. Then he walked into the night, disappearing like smoke into darkness. I closed the door. Silence. Just the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of a car engine fading down the road. I turned around slowly. And Olivia? She was already crying. But not the kind of cry that begs for pity. This was panic. Guilt. Fear. What the hell did he mean? I asked. What happened that night, Olivia? She shook her head. I didn't, Jake, I didn't know he'd do this. I thought if I left, if I ran, he'd forget. Start talking, I snapped. Because right now, it sounds like you've dragged me into a legal war just to hide from your sugar daddy. Her lip trembled. I wasn't supposed to be with Mason that night, she whispered. It was supposed to be dinner. Just dinner. But he was drinking. He started getting aggressive. I tried to leave, and he grabbed me. I blinked. Wait. What are you saying? He didn't force me, Jake, she said, voice shaking. But he used leverage. He threatened to destroy you. Said he'd have your company shut down, ruin your career, make sure you were blacklisted. I felt like someone had kicked me in the chest. You're telling me, you slept with him to protect me? No, she said. I agreed to be with him after that night. To keep him away from you. But that night? I didn't choose it, Jake. I survived it. And just like that, the entire memory, her smugness, her cold words, flashed through my brain in a new light. Had I misunderstood? Had I missed something behind her performance? Or was this just another manipulation? I couldn't tell anymore. But one thing was clear. Mason Caldwell was coming for my son. And he wasn't playing fair. I stared at Olivia for a long time. Her face was wet with tears, her breath coming in shaky gulps as she tried to explain the unexplainable. I didn't know what to believe. That night, the night everything shattered. I remembered every detail. Her blank stare. The way she sat on the bed like she was bored. How she said I bored her. Those weren't the words of someone protecting me. They were the words of someone who had already checked out. Or so I thought. Now I wasn't so sure. But here's the thing, it didn't matter anymore. Because this wasn't about her. This wasn't about heartbreak or lies or old scars. This was about Caleb. My son. And if Mason Caldwell thought he could throw his billionaire weight around and take my kid like he was buying another skyscraper, then he picked the wrong man to push. No more standing still. No more playing defense. It was time to fight back. The next morning, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to Marcus, my oldest friend, ex-military, now a private investigator with a particular talent for digging up things people desperately wanted buried. "Tell me you still have that access to the civil court database," I said. He grunted. "What's going on?" "I need everything you can find on Everett Cole and Caldwell's legal team. I want weaknesses, dirt, secret settlements, anything that smells off." He paused. "We talking about legal trouble, or a war?" "We're talking family. So you tell me. I'll get started. You'll owe me a bottle of something dangerous." Done. The second call was to a woman I hadn't spoken to in almost a year, Cassandra Lane. The lawyer who got me out of a legal mess when a nightclub owner tried to sue me for breaking his nephew's arm during a security job. She was brutal. Smart. And she hated men like Mason Caldwell. When I explained what was happening, she didn't even hesitate. "You're going to bring me that envelope," she said. "We're going to rip it to shreds. You're the biological father, and unless Mason's hiding a judge in his back pocket, this is a scare tactic. And if he does have a judge in his pocket?" She laughed. "Then I'll burn the pocket." By nightfall, I had a strategy. Olivia still didn't trust me fully, and honestly, I didn't trust her either. But there was something raw in the way she held Caleb now. Protective. Desperate. She wasn't faking that. "I need you to tell me everything," I told her as we sat across from each other in the kitchen, Caleb sleeping between us in a carrier. She looked exhausted. Older. Not in her face, but in her soul. "Mason made me sign a contract 6 days after you left," she said. "NDA, behavioral clause, even one about reproduction. Said if I ever got pregnant, he'd consider it breach." Back then, I was numb. I didn't read it. I just signed. "You didn't know you were already pregnant?" She shook her head. "No. And when I found out, I panicked. I told him it was his. I thought it would buy me time to disappear." I exhaled slowly. "And he bought that?" "At first. But he had his assistant tail me. He knew I lied. That's when everything changed. That's when she fled. Cut ties. Hid with friends. And eventually, me." "So he's doing this just to punish you," I said. She nodded. "And to prove he can. You don't get it, Jake. Mason doesn't lose. Ever." "Well," I said, standing up, "that's about to change." The next day, Cassandra and I filed an emergency countersuit. Parental rights. Visitation block. Temporary custody lock. In the meantime, Marcus delivered the first piece of gold, a sealed settlement from 6 years ago, when Mason was accused of pressuring a 19-year-old intern into a relationship. The case was buried under NDAs and payoffs, but Marcus found a trail. I sent it anonymously to 3 major news outlets. Let the world start whispering. The pressure would build. I didn't need to destroy Mason overnight. I just needed him to bleed. 3 days before the court date, Olivia got another text from Everett. "Unknown, you're making a mistake. He can't protect you forever. Olivia, he doesn't need to. I'm done running." We were ready. Or so I thought. Because that night, after I rocked Caleb to sleep, there was another knock at the door. Not slow this time. Loud. Sharp. Repeating. Bang. 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 I grabbed my Glock from the drawer and moved to the door. Through the peephole, nothing. No one was there. But taped to the outside of the door was a white envelope. Inside? A photo of Caleb. Taken through a sniper lens. The timestamp? 1 hour ago. The photo shook in my hand. Caleb's tiny face, slightly turned, caught through a sniper lens. He was in his stroller. The timestamp at the corner burned into my mind like a brand, 1:08 p.m. 1 hour ago. Which meant, someone had eyes on us. Eyes close. I turned the photo over. One word, scribbled in red ink. Run. I locked every window, pulled the blackout curtains, and checked every room with my Glock drawn. Olivia sat frozen in the hallway, holding Caleb so tight he started to cry. She didn't rock him. She didn't move. She just whispered, "Oh my God," over and over. "Did you tell anyone where we were staying?" I asked sharply, my voice low and cold. She shook her head. I didn't believe her. She saw it in my eyes. "Jake, I swear. I cut all contact. I wiped everything. I haven't spoken to anyone except," she stopped. "Except who?" I demanded. She closed her eyes. "My sister." I cursed under my breath. She promised she wouldn't say anything. She lives in Florida. She doesn't even. She posted a birthday pic of Caleb 2 days ago, I snapped, tossing my phone onto the table. I just saw it. Geotagged. With a "wish I could be there" caption. You think Caldwell's people can't trace that in 30 seconds? Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't have the patience for them. Not now. We're leaving. Tonight. By 9 p.m., I had us packed and ready. I moved like muscle memory, sweeping the place, loading weapons, prepping the truck. I'd done this before, back in the days when I worked extractions overseas. But this time, it wasn't a client I was protecting. It was my son. Olivia moved like a ghost, holding Caleb, too quiet, too slow. "What are we doing?" she finally asked. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere I never thought I'd go back to," I said. Her brow furrowed. "Where?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "My father's cabin." It was 4 hours north, deep in the woods, off a private road with no cell reception and no power lines. The place was a relic, built by my old man before I was born, passed to me after he died. I hadn't visited in years. Too many memories. Too much pain. But right now? It was the safest place I could think of. We hit the road at midnight. I took the long way. Switched cars at Marcus's lot. Wiped our GPS history, smashed Olivia's phone, burned the SIM. She didn't argue. We drove in silence. Caleb slept. I didn't blink. We reached the cabin just before sunrise. It was colder than I remembered, moss-covered, slightly tilted, but still sturdy. I parked the SUV behind a thicket of trees, then carried Caleb inside. Olivia followed, numb. Once we were inside, I secured every entry point, set tripwires, mounted motion sensors in the trees. I had a backup generator, food for a month, weapons, and the kind of silence that eats your thoughts. Olivia sat on the creaky couch with Caleb in her lap, staring at the dusty fireplace. "This is where you grew up?" she asked softly. "No," I replied. "This is where I learned not to trust anyone." She didn't ask more. Smart. 3 days passed. No contact. No knocks. No photos. Just silence. But I didn't relax. Not for a second. I trained every morning, ran drills with Olivia on what to do if something happened to me. I taught her how to fire a handgun. How to change magazines. How to run with the baby without making noise. She was terrible at it. But she tried. She tried like she hadn't in years. And for a second, just 1 second, I started to believe maybe we could survive this. Maybe, after all the hell she dragged us through, she finally understood what mattered. Then came the 5th night. The baby monitor buzzed. It was hooked to a cam I set up in Caleb's room. At 3:27 a.m., it lit up. Movement. I shot out of bed, grabbed the Glock, and checked the screen. A figure. Standing at the window. Tall. Lean. Watching. Not trying to get in. Just watching. I rushed down the hall. But by the time I got there, he was gone. Just footprints in the snow. Leading back into the woods. I followed them. Gun raised. They went 50 yards, then vanished. Too clean. Too practiced. I returned to the cabin, heart pounding. Olivia stood by the window, eyes wide. Was it him? I don't know. But it was someone? I nodded. She looked at the door, then at Caleb. And for the first time since she came back into my life, her voice dropped an octave, steadier. Harder. I'm done hiding, Jake. I stared at her, surprised. What does that mean? It means I want to fight. I walked over to the table, opened a locked case, and handed her a gun. You better mean it, I said. Because Mason Caldwell just made this war personal. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window with a loaded Glock in one hand and a scoped rifle on the table beside me. My eyes never left the treeline. I was waiting. Not hoping. Waiting. Because I knew something was coming. And this time, I'd be ready. Olivia stayed up, too. She sat on the floor with Caleb in her arms, feeding him formula in silence. No tears. No questions. Just quiet resolve. The kind you only see when someone has finally hit the bottom, and decided not to die there. At 4:13 a.m., the alarm tripped. Not the motion sensors. The pressure pad. Which meant someone was close. On the porch. I stood, silent, heart steady, weapon raised. I signaled to Olivia to move into the hidden back crawl space with Caleb, just like we rehearsed. She didn't argue. She moved fast. Then I turned toward the door. 3 knocks. Slow. Heavy. Familiar. I didn't hesitate. I opened it. Mason Caldwell stood there in a black trench coat, flanked by 2 bodyguards in tailored suits and earpieces. He looked older than I remembered, paler, thinner. But his smile? Still arrogant as hell. Jake, he said. What a journey it's been. I stepped outside, shutting the door behind me. You drove 4 hours into the mountains to threaten me in person? I asked. That's bold. He chuckled. No, Jake. I came to offer you a solution. One that doesn't involve blood. I didn't lower my gun. Go on. He looked around the snow-covered woods like it bored him. I've had Olivia followed for months. I've known about Caleb since the day she visited the clinic. I let her run. Let her feel safe. She led me right to you. You sent someone to take photos of my son through a rifle scope. He smiled wider. Dramatic, isn't it? But necessary. You needed to understand that I'm not bluffing. Say what you came to say. He stepped closer, his guard staying back. You give me full legal custody. Sole rights. You walk away. In exchange, I give you money. Enough to disappear. I'll even let Olivia walk, unharmed. Why? I asked. He's not your kid. His eyes hardened. Because Olivia embarrassed me. Because you made noise. Because people like you don't get to win against people like me. This is my cleanup. I smiled. And for the first time in a long time, it was real. Funny, I said. I was about to say the same thing to you. He blinked. Behind me, the cabin lights snapped on, blinding floodlights Marcus installed the day before. They lit the woods like a stadium. And then the crunch of boots in the snow. One by one, 5 figures stepped out of the trees. All armed. All ex-military. All on my side. Marcus at the front, rifle slung over his chest, grinning like a wolf. Hey, Jake, he said. We got your text. Caldwell froze. I raised my voice. You thought you were the only one who could afford insurance? His guards reached for their weapons. 12 laser dots appeared on their chests. Red. Precise. Deadly. I stepped closer to Mason. You're not taking my son, I said, calm as ice. You're not going to bury Olivia. You're not going to scare me. What you're going to do, right now, is turn around, get back in your fancy SUV, and disappear. Or you're going to find out what happens when the wolf you corner decides to bite. He didn't respond. Not right away. But then, slowly, he raised his hands. A single, tiny nod. He turned. His guards hesitated, then followed. They disappeared into the night. And that? That was the end of Mason Caldwell. 2 months later. Cassandra buried him in court. The news story Marcus leaked, about Mason's history, the NDAs, the hush money, caught fire. His empire crumbled. Lawsuits followed. Investors bailed. The golden boy of real estate became a walking scandal. Olivia and I. We weren't suddenly perfect. But we were free. She got a job. Started therapy. Stopped running. I stayed in the mountains with Caleb for a while. I learned how to be a dad. Not just the protector. The presence. The quiet strength. The voice he'd hear when the world got loud. Eventually, I forgave her. Not because she deserved it. But because I deserved peace. Sometimes I think back to that night, the knock on the door, the photo in the envelope, the moment I realized how far I'd come from the man who once brought croissants home to a woman who'd already moved on. That man is gone now. I don't miss him. Because the man I am now? He answers the door with a weapon in one hand and a reason to fight in the other. Not for revenge. For love. And no one takes that from me again. Not Mason. Not the past. Not anyone.